Hello and welcome to Lunar Persuasion Astrology. Today we're going to talk about the full moon for January 13th, 2025 in the sidereal sign of Gemini. Now this is the midway point of the lunar cycle that we're in while Sun is in Sagittarius. So if you looked at my previous video, we talked about expanding your view. Where is your perspective expanding? And today we're going to talk about reflecting on that. So how have these last 2 weeks gone for you? What kind of growth have you had in regard to a new perspective or a new outlook on life, or in whatever area Sagittarius is activating for you in your chart? So if Sagittarius is in your fourth house, this could be new perspectives around your home life, your mother, where you get peace of mind. Whereas if Sagittarius is in your seventh house, this could be more about your committed relationships, business partners, and spouse, marriage, that sort of thing. But today we're going to look at the full moon, which is the brightest moon of the lunar phase, and it's when moon and sun are in opposition to each other in the zodiac. So you can see in the chart here, let me see if I can get my mouse. So I've got sun here. Oops. Let's do this. I got too many screens up. Where's it at? There it is. Okay, so we've got Sun here in Sagittarius, and we've got Gemini, or Moon in Gemini. And you can see they're right at the edge of the signs too, which is I always find very fascinating when a new moon or a full moon cycle occurs, like right at the last minute. And I think there's not very much time left in this cycle either. It's really towards the end of the full moon that sun and moon join together in that exact opposition in the sky. And so that's the chart that I have pulled up, is that exact moment. So you can see that there. But what we want to talk about today is, what is the full moon? It's really a time of reflection. It's a time to look back and reflect upon what's been going on. And in this case, it's in Gemini. And Gemini is an air sign. It's a comma sign. It's a dual masculine sign. And it's really all about our communications, our sharing of information. It's a very social sign. It's the first social sign in the zodiac, and it is associated with the third house of siblings, courage, self-effort, our interest, and those sorts of things. So if we look at this chart a little bit more closely, we can see that Mercury is actually aspecting the full moon here, which is very, very powerful. Mercury is the ruler of Gemini, so this is just adding extra strength and extra oomph to the themes of this chart. Okay, so what does this mean? So just as the moon reflects the full light of the sun, the full moon is a time of psychological reflection. The signs involved will color the nature of the moon and the sun, while the house will reveal the area of life impacted. So first of all, let's look at Gemini. Gemini is a masculine sign. It's dual, it's an air sign, and it's ruled by Mercury. So the masculine energy has a positive charge and implies action over passivity. Gemini is about sharing ideas and communication and not receiving them. That's more of a feminine nature, like Cancer or Scorpio. As a dual sign, Gemini is adaptive, it's flexible and agile, especially when it comes to change. Some need to experience change slowly, while others want to just rip off the Band-Aid, right? And so in Gemini, there is a nature to do either one, depending on the situation at hand. Now, air signs are connected to karma, one of the four aims in life. We've got Dharma, Artha, Moksha, and these are all connected to the elements in a chart. And so karma is connected to the air element, and they are associated with themes around relationships, communications, exchanging of information, sharing information, socializing, those sorts of things. So a full moon ruled by Mercury. Mercury is a neutral planet, deals with the intellectual things in life, our skills. Mercury is our thinking mind and deals with our communication style and our capacity for curiosity. Although Mercury is a friend to the moon, it's a one-sided friendship. From Mercury's perspective, the moon is an enemy. So when the moon is in Gemini, it's like having an enemy in the house. It's awkward, it's uncomfortable, and can be overwhelming. However, a full moon is highly benefic, so it could be worse. But overall, it's a time focused on the emotional mind of the moon and the thinking mind of Mercury, and blending those two energies together. So our thoughts and our words are influenced by the receptive waters of the moon, and this brings emotion and nostalgia to our ideas and our interests. So the moon can only reflect the light given from the sun. It doesn't give any of its own light, right? And so when the moon is completely opposite the sun, it's at its brightest. It's been waxing for the last 2 weeks, growing in energy. We've been expanding our view and our perspective and been working on that. And now it's time to reflect back on that, quite literally. And so Moon in Gemini is asking us to look back on those beliefs and thoughts that we've been having, and are we really rooted in them? Like, how rooted are we in them, and how connected are we to them? Will we be able to connect to them? That's really the important question. So the full moon in Gemini is a time to reflect on our beliefs and our ideologies, to see how they align with what we are actually communicating and thinking. So only through a harmonious alignment of our beliefs and communications can we truly connect to the heart and create from that space. And I say that because following Gemini is Cancer, where we have our emotional connections, and then following Cancer is Leo, where we create from those emotional connections. So if you look at the zodiac in a holistic way, it's this cycle, this bigger cycle, that's broken down by these smaller lunar cycles each month. Okay, so the previous new moon, in Sagittarius, which is the current lunar cycle that we're in, about expanding our view and our perspective and really our philosophies and our beliefs. So between now and then, the moon has been growing in brightness, providing support to those new ideas. And the full moon is that fork in the road moment, right? It's where you stand and look back at the last 2 weeks and decide to continue down the same path or make adjustments to your journey. And we're going to explore that now by just looking at the energies of the new moon chart. So I've got this one pulled up. Like I said, this is actually going to take place January 13th at 4:26 p.m. Central Standard Time. And let's just look at the chart and kind of get an overall assessment of what's at play here. How are the planets in signs and in relationship, spatial relationship to the moon? What are these things going on, right? So this is the mundane view versus the natal view. So the ruler of Gemini, Mercury, is aspecting back. So this is really adding strength to our ability to reflect. Okay, so there's also a spiritual theme with K2 in the 4th house. We've got Jupiter, the ruler of Sun, opposition, right, of Sagittarius. It's in the 12th position from the moon. This is a very spiritual position because it deals with loss of the physical in exchange for a more spiritual pursuit. And so that's kind of the symbology around that. It's also giving a moksha energy, right? The 12th house is moksha energy. And this indicates the depth of our reflections during this time to become liberated, to have that spiritual pursuit. And it's really, connecting to the divine will give you the answers that you seek. All you need to do is ask. And that's something that you can do while you're reflecting. You can internally ask yourself and maybe ask the divine for how things are going, your check-in moment. So there's also a debilitated Mars in Cancer, second from the moon. So this is important because Cancer is ruled by the moon. So anytime we're assessing a chart or looking at a specific planet, in this case the moon, we want to look at where the moon rules and what's impacting. So Mars debilitated in Cancer is really important because it can add a bit of a wrench to our plans, right? It may make us feel more nostalgic, more prone to look towards past events, which can lead to, resentment or placing blame. There's a tendency to place blame on others, and Mars, being the planet of our courage, is kind of watered down. It's a fire planet, and he's watered down by the emotions of Moon and Cancer. And being in the second position from the Moon is showing the gains of that, right? So what is the gain of our emotional mind being in Gemini? Well, it's showing here Cancer, right? It's the gains of that is having emotional connections, but Mars is influencing that. So there could be vulnerabilities, insecurities, that sort of thing at play as well. And these are all just things to look out for in your mind, in your internal thoughts. What's the communications that you're having with yourself? What are the things that you're saying with yourself? And, are they reflecting what you really believe? So that's kind of the gist of that. We've also got Venus joined a very strong Saturn in Aquarius, 9th from the Moon. So this is putting pressure on our spiritual pursuits and our higher learning, which may feel uncomfortable if we're not already on the right path, right? So Saturn is all about correcting, it being corrective in nature, being precise and methodical. And Saturn has been aspecting its third special aspect onto Aries for the last 2 years. And so Saturn's third aspect onto Aries is demanding that we work on ourselves rather than try to change the situation to fit around our selfish expectations, right? So stepping out of ourselves for a little bit and saying, hey, what are these expectations that I have for myself and for others? Do they align? Where is this coming from? And that's kind of where this whole reflection is about for this lunar cycle. So finally, we'll look at the sun. Even though we talked a lot about the sun in Sagittarius in the last video, we can look at it in this regard as being 7th from the moon, because that's what a full moon is. Its sun is always 7th from the moon in a full moon. But we can see that Leo, the sign that sun rules, is in the 3rd house. So how I read this is that sun is giving strength and inspiration and integrity to our reflections during this time. So that's really, really good. We've got that extra support there from the sun and from Mercury. And, just as long as we kind of avoid that retrograde, debilitated energy of Mars there, make sure you're picking your battles, you're fighting the good fight. Don't get caught up in things that you can't control, right? You can control yourself, you can control your mind and emotions. The things that you put energy towards, the things that you act on is really important because it can pull from your power, right? This is definitely a lot about your personal power because everything stems from the mind. Everything begins in the mind as a thought, and it's really just your thought until you act on it, right? So that's why there's this caution here with Mars being second. Also, second house is our speech, our voice. And so second from the moon, it could create some harsh speech. It could create some ugliness that you just want to avoid. Make sure you just channel that aggression or that passion to better yourself, to work out the things that will make you feel more confident and give you more courage to share and express your ideas. So now let's take a look at this full moon for each ascendant. And I'll say I do have a blog about this on my website, lunarpersuasion.com, and I break this down for each ascendant. And I also talk about your ruling planet in this specific chart, and I go into a little bit more detail, but for this video, I'm going to keep it short and sweet. We're just going to do a very high level overview, and it's actually going to be very quick. So I'll put timestamps in the description, but I'm just going to breeze right through these guys. Okay, so I just want you to get the overall gist of where this energy is taking place for you. And let's just get started. This is the house where Gemini sits in your chart, and it will show you where you need to reflect. So for my Dharma Ascendants, Aries, Leo, Sagittarius, this full moon is taking place in a Kama house. So your reflections and your contemplations are focused on your relationships, how you communicate with others, and how you share your unique self with the world. For Aries, this is your 3rd house of courage and effort. For Leo, this is your 11th house of gains and aspirations. And for Sagittarius, this is your 7th house of relationships and commitments. For the Artha Ascendants, this full moon is taking place in a Moksha house. So this is for Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn Ascendants. Reflection and contemplation are focused on your emotional connections, transformations, and spiritual pursuits. Taurus, Gemini is your 2nd house of values and money. Virgo, Gemini is your 10th house of career and karma. And Capricorn, Gemini is your 6th house of health and challenges. For Kama Ascendants, your full moon is taking place in a Dharma house. Reflection and contemplation are focused on your life's purpose, your meaning, where you get fulfillment. So for Gemini, this is in your 1st house of self and physical body. For Libra, Gemini is your 9th house of higher learning and father. And Aquarius, Gemini is your 5th house of creativity and children. For the Moksha Ascendants, this full moon is taking place in an Artha house. So reflection and contemplation are focused on your material resources, values, and work. For Cancer, okay, this is for Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces ascendants, right? My water signs. So for Cancer, Gemini is your 12th house of expenses and loss. For Scorpio, this is your 8th house of transformation and hidden knowledge. And for Pisces, Gemini is your 4th house of home and mother. All right, guys, so over these next 2 weeks, spend time reflecting on how your outlook on life actually affects everything that you do and experience. If something's not working, think about it and see how a different perspective might open up a whole new world of awareness for you. This next lunar cycle will be about practicing what you preach, what you say and believe, and now will be the very thing that you experience next. So this is just how life works. You get back what you put in, whether it's immediate or later down the road. So the lesson here is to try to stand firm in your beliefs and not someone else's. So with that being said, I hope everyone has an awesome full moon. If you want this report in more detail, I do have it on my website, lunarpersuasion.com. And until then, see you later.